Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi guys. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Assalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. We will now examine the character or the attributes of the deposit fund, given the fact that the financial reporting of Islamic Bank, which is both endorsed by ROF and IFSB, tend to show that the PSIA is a deposit fund. Number one, we can see that the income derived from the investment of depositors fund. So instead of defining the fund as a PSIA in this note 23, the PSIA is described as a depositors fund. This is again something that is quite misleading, because the PSIA is an equity fund, and maybe we take the case if there is some non-PSIA fund, that would be deposit fund. But the note 23 does not give us any kind of indication how much funds are coming from the PSIA pool and how much funds are coming from the deposit pool. And at the same time, you can see here that the reporting also indicate that the income attributable to depositors, this is essentially note 26, and that was 741 million. Again, this is an item to refer the cost of deposit. And again, this is a misleading reporting, given the fact that the PSIA fund is not a depositors fund, but they are using the term depositors in the report. So is it a weak oversight in the financial reporting? I doubt it. Is it a typing error? I don't think it is a typing error. Is it the fact that there's a weak Sharia governance that allow such a term to be used in the financial reporting of the bank earning, given the fact that the funding are coming from a profit sharing arrangement between the bank and the customer? So why is it that the PSIA is labeled as deposits? And again, we can see in the note 16, depositors from customer deposit fund, which is again a term used by the Islamic financial reporting to indicate the funding of the asset are coming from deposits. Okay, there is a non-mudarabah deposit, which we can accept. It can be coming from Qardu, it can be coming from Wadi al-Damanah, as well as Tabarruk. But we have this Mudarabah deposit, and the Mudarabah is classified as demand deposit, saving deposit, which is deposit. And then we have the general investment account deposit, and the specific investment deposit, which is the restricted PSIA. So what is this? This is an error, or this is simply to say that the PSIA or the Mudarabah fund is indeed a deposit fund. I don't think that the Bank Negara it has been making error for years and years, since 1983, to indicate that this kind of error keep on repeating every year. But I presume that this is what it is meant to be, that the PSIA is a deposit fund, which implies that it is a leverage fund. It is money that the bank take as a loan from the depositor, because by default, deposit fund is a leverage fund. It is money borrowed from the depositor, and it is based on the interest bearing. loan contract where the depositor will be guaranteed their placement plus the stipulated interest rate based on the holding period. So this is something that we need to see, which I suspect the transition from PSIA system into the investment account system, that would be one of the main reasons why in Malaysia we have converged into the full investment account fund, where it is no longer a deposit fund, it is an equity fund, and deposit fund instead will be coming from the tawarruk deposit that guarantees the placement plus profit. So essentially the deposit fund, which is contracted under tawarruk, is indeed a leverage fund that the bank acquire from the depositor with guarantee on the placement made plus the profit as agreed upon in the deposit contract. So this is something that we need to see, because the education of Islamic finance tend to be around the product offering rather than banking business and risk strategy. So risk management is one area where we can actually dissect the operation of the Islamic banking business and to see the reason why the Islamic bank were not able to offer real sale, real lease, istisna and salam and mudarabah financing, because the funding is coming from leverage. Even using the name of PSIA, the funding is still labeled as deposit, as we can see easily from this financial report. So don't blame me. This is something that is clearly evidenced in the literature, and we do hope that something is done here. Not only Malaysia have already moved into the full investment account system, so we don't have this kind of dichotomy and misguided illustration of the PSIA contract. So that migration into full PSIA, that is the investment account fund, have actually remedied the problem. But existing country like Pakistan and Indonesia, Africa, and some parts of the Middle East are still operating based on the funding system coming from deposit, coming from PSIA deposit. So how are they going to basically handle this kind of ambiguities and confusion about the using of that deposit labeling to infer or to imply PSIA fund, which is, I presume, something that is honestly shown in the banking report for the sake of transparency and full disclosure, or it is something that has been overlooked and nobody is coming forward to criticize the phenomenon. There's no policy concern over this kind of reporting. Then it is up to us, to voice out our observation and to see to what extent the customer, the depositor, as consumer. So this is something involving consumer financial protection. And if the consumer, the funder, come in to invest, expecting them to receive higher return compared with the fixed deposit, then they will see that what they are putting their money into only deposit fund under the Islamic label of mudarabah, and this is something that can trigger potential Sharia non-compliance event because the labeling is different from what is currently operated in the Islamic banking business. So if we look at the character of the deposit fund, number one, deposit is a loan to the bank. So if qardu, if wadi'ah damana, and if tawarruk is a deposit, right? And if the bank is using deposit for PSIA, then this is a leverage system, meaning that deposit is a loan to the bank. When it is a loan to the bank, it implies that the bank must guarantee both principal and interest or profit regardless of how the funds are used. Right? So this is something that we need to really put our mind seriously, and to see that the use of the deposit fund for the PSIA product offering, it is a weak oversight that needs rectification. And as a deposit fund, the bank will guarantee the principal and interest regardless of how the bank performs. So if the bank makes lots of bad loans and they got into big loss and there is capital depreciation, the depositor will get back the capital and the so-called interest as stipulated in the agreement. And the bank faces withdrawal risk and potential bank run. So in the case of Silicon Valley Bank or Northern Rock Bank, we can see the withdrawal risk that has adversely impacted the capital position of Silicon Valley Bank and Northern Rock Bank. And the Islamic bank that is using the PSIA fund and labeling it as a deposit fund, then it will also be facing withdrawal risk and potential bank run, despite the fact that the PSIA is claimed as an equity fund. But then when it is labeled as a deposit fund in the financial report, then if the bank is using this mudarabah contract as a justification for not giving the customer to withdraw on call, then the customer can easily litigate the bank for not providing the right to withdraw money on call. Now, and lastly, when the PSIA is regarded as a deposit fund, this will transfer all risk to the bank, including credit market, operational and liquidity risk. So all of the asset risk will be carried by the bank and not the PSIA holder. So this is a very serious thing, and to some extent the Malaysian bank have somehow escaped the public scrutiny or any hearing coming from independent bodies. But yet the existing or the remaining countries that are still operating based on the PSIA system, they must somehow find a way out how to essentially rectify this use of funding labeling to ensure that the PSIA is really an equity fund, or if it is a deposit fund, it must be so-called announced as a deposit fund, and therefore the rights of the depositor to withdraw on call and to obtain fixed return should be considered automatically like what all deposit fund is offered in the conventional banking system. Okay guys, thank you for your time. I'll see you again. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.